Good Erev Shabbos. It is the last parsha in Sefer Vayikra, Bechukosai. It's Shabbos Chazak, Shabbos in which we will be strengthened and strengthen ourselves and strengthen one another. It is also Shabbos Mevarchen. We are on the runway to Shavuos, the day in which we collectively and individually reaffirm our commitment to Torah, to the acceptance of the Torah, to Kabbalah Torah, and reinvigorate ourselves for another cycle of commitment and vitality and joy in a life of living, in a life of Torah living. In the beginning of our Sedra, the Torah, Hashem offers several brachas as a consequence of Im Bechukosai telecho. If we follow in Hashem's ways, then indeed a myriad of brachas will follow suit. And on this list of brachas, almost at the end, the pasuk says, "V'lo sigal nafshi eschem." I, Hashem, will not be disgusted by you. That seems to be a very, very low bar for a blessing of Hashem. Not to be disgusted. I give my spouse, my significant other, my child, my parent, my good friend, I give them a gift and I say, here, I do not find you entirely vile. How is this indeed a bracha at all? And so therefore the Rishonim offer different approaches. The Bar Tanura suggests that absence makes the heart grow fonder, ordinarily. And the corollary of that is that sometimes when we are with one another 24/7, we become somewhat annoyed by one another. We see each other's warts, we see each other's failings, we see each other's failures, and being close to one another can sometimes breed contempt. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, "V'im bechukosai telechu," if you follow my ways, if you live a life of fidelity and loyalty to the Torah, then no matter how long, and no matter how deep, and no matter how intense our close relationship is, lo sigal nafshi eschem, I will never find you contemptible. Now that is a bracha in the sense that in normal human behavior, this type of closeness can breed contempt. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says our relationship is different. Our relationship, there is no contempt. Our relationship, the closer we are through this medium called Shmiras HaMitzvos Bechukosai Telechu, that will only breed and engender greater love, greater respect, greater vitality, and greater joy. And perhaps there is another layer here as well, which is that if we choose to live an authentic life of Torah, then we can translate that into our own relationships as well. Because when we find out another person's flaws or failings or failures or weaknesses, then we can overcome our natural inclination to feel some measure of contempt, because we are spiritually infused by an ethos and a system of living in which we have space for other people with weaknesses, failings, and failures. So that on one hand, that's a way to understand what seems to be not a bracha at all is truly a great bracha. The Ksav Kabbalah suggests, "V'lo sigal nafshi eschem," means that I, Hashem, if you, Bnei Israel, follow in the ways of the Torah, demonstrate loyalty and fidelity to the Torah, then I, Hashem, lo sigal nafshi eschem, I will not be necessary. I will not need to tigal here means to cleanse. I will not need to cleanse you of your impulses, of your desires, because you will have done it on your own. Tigal literally means to spit out, if you will, and that's why it also means to be disgusted by something or someone. But if we take the word literally, v'lo sigal nafshi eschem, I will not be needed to send you out. In other words, I, Hashem, dwell within each of you, and if you are indeed mastering a life of Torah living, there will be no need for me to cleanse you of your impulses, of your desires, of your negative toxicity, because that you will have done on your own, and I will not be needed for that. Now that doesn't seem much of a bracha. It seems more like a consequence, which is a good consequence. In other words, Hashem is saying, you do X, the consequence will be Y, and it is good for you. So why wouldn't you want to do this? Why wouldn't you want to live a life in which you feel joy, a life in which you feel vital, a life in which you feel the behaviors and actions and choices that you make reflect the essence of who you are, and you are in consonance with yourself? Why wouldn't we want that? And so, says the Ksav Kabbalah, V'lo sigal nafshi eschem, is not so much a bracha, it's more a consequence. But perhaps the consequence itself is an organic bracha. Finally, I would like to suggest, Lo sigal nafshi eschem is a message for how we can approach a life of fidelity to Torah and avodas Hashem. And that is that if we lead a life of true spirituality, an authentic life of Torah and mitzvos, then our relationship with Hashem, our relationship with the Torah doesn't become boring. It doesn't become contemptible. Because when we're authentic about it, when it's a life of true spiritual yearning, a journey of spiritual growth, then it's real, it's deep, it's meaningful, it's purposeful, and it's uplifting. V'lo sigal nafshi eschem, Hashem says, in Bechukosai telechu. If you walk down this path, telechu means to go, to walk. If you indeed walk down this path of spiritual maturation and aspiration, then lo sigal nafshi eschem. I, Hashem, this life which I'm calling you to lead, lo sigal nafshi eschem. It will not, I, Hashem, will not be contemptible to you. The Torah will not be contemptible to you. Because when we lead a life that is authentic, then it doesn't become boring and upsetting and contemptible. When Hashem says, V'lo sigal nafshi eschem, this is not just a bracha, an overt bracha. It is not just a consequence type of bracha, but Hashem is giving us a prescription to how to lead a beautiful, joyful, meaningful, purposeful life full of vim, vigor, and vitality. And that is what we reconnect to and we recommit to on Shavuos, just a few days away. May HaKadosh Baruch Hu give us the wisdom and the strength to be able to recommit ourselves to a life of Kabbalas HaTorah and of Talmud Torah and a life of Shmiras HaMitzvos, such that way we can live a life full of joy, life, and vitality. Good Shabbos.